The Giants and the Eagles went down, and you know the Eagles won the game 33-25. And the question that we have is, should we be encouraged by the Eagles win or by the Giants' effort in a loss? And once again, Zach, the mic is yours.
Yeah, I think for my opinion on Philadelphia, I'm kind of a mixed bag. Like, it's funny. I kind of just laughed when they made the defensive coordinator switch to Matt Patricia going into that Monday night game against the Seattle Seahawks. And it's funny because I've been very worried about the Eagles defense like over the course of the last few weeks, and really dating back to last season. It seemed to me that like every time they faced a really good quarterback, their defense would just get shredded. And they're without Darius Slay right now. Hopefully he'll be back by the time we start up the playoffs. But the Eagles defense has actually been pretty good since Patricia took over. I know you look at the scoreboard and the Giants put up 25 points, but Hurts threw a pick six. That's 7 points right there. They also fumbled a kick return and gave the Giants pretty good field position at the 15-yard line. So overall, I thought the Eagles defense played pretty well. It's just their offense. Like, I know they put up 33 points, and I thought Hurts played pretty well in this game, 300 yards, the one turnover. I know Goddard slipped, but that can't happen. I just think, man, like, when you look at the talent on this Eagles team, their offense should be better. You have Jalen Hurts. You have DeAndre Swift, who's been running the ball really well. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, maybe the best 1-2 wide receiver punch in the league. And I don't know, man. It just feels to me something is missing. I know that both they lost both their coordinators, which this is like a common theme around the league, kind of like these coordinators, and losing them are just making a much bigger impact than many, including myself, realized. It's clear that Shane Steichen, with everything that he's done in Indy so far, has had he was really running things last year. He had a massive impact. And my question with the Eagles is like, what does Nick Sirianni do as a head coach? I know that he was hired because of the work he did as the Colts offensive coordinator, but it's clear that something is just off with this Eagles offense. It's not the same unit that we saw last year. And sure, there's plenty of blame to go on Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator. He's clearly not Shane Steichen. I don't know if he's really ready for this role. But if you're Nick Sirianni, man, like, why don't you take over play calling, man? Like, you were the offensive coordinator in Indianapolis. You always say it's your offense. I just think the head coach in Philadelphia right now is out of answers. And they play the Cardinals and the Giants again. Their next 2 weeks to end the season. There's nothing, I think, short of putting up 40 points that is going to make me convinced that this Eagle team could have success in the playoffs. The fact that this was even a game late is pretty concerning, and I know there were a couple of fluke plays, but man, like, the Eagles usually dominate the Giants every time they play, and I thought they did for the most part in this game, but still, somehow the Giants were driving late with the chance to tie the game. I mean, if Tyrod Taylor starts for the Giants, like, do they win? Maybe. I don't know. So I wasn't too encouraged by the Eagles. I think the Giants, they have a ton of questions going forward in their future, but, they've kind of been out of it for a while now. The Tommy DeVito story was great while it lasted, but, the clock hit midnight on him. They're going to be starting Tyrod next week, and I still think the Eagles have a ton of questions.
Yeah, and that's why I would answer the question. I'm a little bit more encouraged by the Giants' effort in the loss because, when you consider the dynamics of the situation, Tommy DeVito getting benched and in comes Tyrod Taylor, just the fight and the mental, ability to, keep the game in distance, even when it was separating, having that 76-yard interception return by Derrick Jackson. They do play hard. One thing about the Giants that you can never really short them on. Sometimes they do get outmanned. They're not really a talented football team, so sometimes they could get dominated. But for the most part, the last couple of weeks, they have been playing hard for Brian Daboll, which is the reason why I think his job is safe for all purposes. If anybody had any questions about his job, is he on the hot seat? I think his job is safe and it's cold, and I think because the players are, keeping the game a distance, winning the game or two, and really playing hard for him and keeping this game close, giving themselves a chance to go down and march down the field at the end of the game to try to win the game and tie the game, to bring it to overtime. It just was unsuccessful, but they got close to where they gave themselves a legitimate opportunity to win the game. And that's why I'm more impressed with them more than anything else with the Eagles, because the Eagles, I just been off. The last couple of weeks, I've been off the train. When you think about everything from just the perspective of the whole entire season, this game was a microcosm of their season in a nutshell, because it's like, okay, The Giants is a team that last year, 3 straight games, well, not 3 straight, but 3 times last year, they dominated. Okay. But this year, they can't create that separation. That's a microcosm. Last year, they were dominating teams. Okay, they were dominant. You know, MVP Jalen Hurts, he was going to win that award if he didn't get hurt. They were dominant. But this year, they can't create that separation, right? Games are close. It's fourth quarter magic. Then they lose in 3 straight, right? Why can't they create that separation? And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, it starts off defensively. The defense is straight beans, bro. And it's unreal that they will be that bad from a year-to-year span. But man, they are terrible. And I think a lot of it has to do with the secondary, right? You got to start up with the secondary. The secondary is getting roasted. I believe Tyrod Taylor hit Darius Slayton for a 69-yard touchdown pass, the largest pass, the biggest play of the Giants season. Yeah, way to go, right? And I think it also lies up front because last year they had 70 sacks on the year. You had guys like Hassan Reddick getting to the quarterback.
And
Now,
and that's the thing I'm confused about. Like, what is they didn't they draft Jalen Carter? Like, why is that
yeah,
changed? Like, I understand
yeah,
that they lost some guys in the secondary and they had 2 older corners in Slay and Bradbury, but the defensive line was supposed to be the strength of this team. Like, why can't they
yeah.
get to the quarterback?
And result of that is quarterbacks these days have more time to survey their field. To survey their field and make the throws down the field. And Drew Lock led a 92 game winning drive. Drew Lock here. He was able to survey the field and make the plays. And, I think a lot of it has to do with scheme and the loss of Jonathan Gannon. Also with guys like Jalen Carter, being a rookie, being thrusted in a situation where it's like, all right, this is a team with championship aspirations, but is a development there. Now he made plays early in the year. I'm not sure what's going on right now. I don't really hear his name like that. But the Eagles defense, it starts over there, right? And then when you look at the offense don't have an identity. So I think things could be very problematic. And that's the reason why I'm not encouraged that they broke a losing streak here against the Giants, because things are very problematic. Your defense has been trash since week 1. But why y'all was winning games? Why y'all was 10-1 at one point? Because your offense was able to bail out. It wasn't consistent, but Jalen Hurts were in the fourth quarter bailing you out, bailing you out. That's not going to happen. That's not sustainable. They don't attack the middle of the field. Everything is no risk and no biscuit up the sideline, or it's very conservative, like layup. Like, for example, it was not a screen. It was not a quarterback design run, right? It's up the sideline. No attack in the middle of the field. That's something they did last year. So they're not creative, right? Is that no risk and no biscuit? Sprinkle in some layup those right there. Screen, 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 right? But it's nothing across the middle of the field. And they have no identity. And I think when you talk about this, this tush push thing that they got going on, I think the Eagles feel that they could just kind of like BS around, each game and win a game that way, because they do have an extra down every time they play an opponent, because they realize that, the tush push is hard to stop. But those things are not going to matter if you can't generate consistent offense and use every bit of that grass that you can instead of being up the sideline. So I think when you look at this team in closing, we should not be encouraged. Their defense stinks. Jalen Hurts, again, interception, turnover, a fumble. He has a lot of those. And people fail to realize, as good as they were last year, as good as Jalen Hurts played in the Super Bowl last year, arguably was the best quarterback that day. He had that one play that cost him the game, the fumble that was returned for a touchdown. That swayed the game. So we have to be real about Hurts. He's not a top 5 quarterback to me. Never thought he was. Nah, I think he's a top 10, and I think he's clutch. He has that gene. I give him credit for that. He's a great leader. I didn't like him going on this team, a week ago. He's a great leader. He's clutch. But as far as, physical ability, being able to sit in the pocket and make those throws in the middle of the field, is something that he did last year that he's not doing this year. He has to play a little bit better as well. So he is your man. You paid him. He's paid to be the equalizer. I understand things are breaking down around him, and a lot of this is not his fault. But guess what? Why do you get that big contract? What is the millions for, bro? You think they're just giving you millions? A lot of people think, with millions, it's just, oh, here, go to Zara, go to Balenciaga, get you something nice. No, the millions are for a reason, to provide, to be the equalizer. Why do you think record labels give you millions? To go spend it? No, you got to pay that back. You better be a star. If you're Jalen Hurts, you better be a star. You got to be the equalizer here. And he was doing that, but he's not doing that a lot. He wasn't doing that in that losing streak. He had an opportunity to beat the Seahawks. Game winning drive, do an interception, double coverage. Now, it wasn't technically in double coverage. The defender came across the field, made a good play on the ball, but still, it was an interception. So that's your problem with the Eagles right now.
Yeah, and I think, we've kind of hinted at this when talking about the Niners. Like, we're not going to learn anything about this team. Now, let me ask you, like, we both brought up Jonathan Gannon. Like, I'm not saying the Eagles are going to lose at home to the Cardinals, but let's not forget, like, Jonathan Gannon got ran out of Philadelphia after they lost that Super Bowl to the Chiefs. And I know Patricia, I said their defense has been a little bit better since he took over. It's only been 2 games, but man, like, one thing we know about the Cardinals is, like, they've played hard, like, for the majority of the season. They show up to play most of these games. Kyler is capable of having a good game, a really good game, and taking over anytime he takes the field. Like, I'm curious to see Jonathan Gannon next week coming back to Philadelphia. What a storyline that is. At the end of the day, the NFL, it's a TV entertainment product. Like, man, I'm intrigued by that game. And I think the Cardinals, they could keep that game close. And if they do, like, what does that even say about Philadelphia? I just feel like when watching them last year, they would just step on the necks of their opponents, never really give them a chance. And in the Seahawks game and in this Giant game as well, I did feel like the Eagles, from start to finish, were the better team. But they kept their opponent in the game. And we've been watching sports long enough to know that, like, when you do that long enough, that's ultimately going to cost you. And I think that could happen to them in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. I think for me, when you talk about the matchup coming up against the Arizona Cardinals and, the return of Jonathan Gannon, and how that situation panned out, I think for me, I look at it like this. The Eagles kind of remind me in some ways of the Patriots from last year, in a lot of ways, because even though the record is totally different and they still obviously in contention, they still could make the playoffs. Hell, they still could get to a Super Bowl for, like I said, we talked about the 49ers. Like, they have issues. The Cowboys, they have issues, right? They're going to have to go on the road to get there, right? The Lions, are they really that team, So the Eagles could potentially still get there. But the difference is, and the similarities to the Patriots that I'm trying to draw here, is that Belichick ran out of coordinators. Coordinators, they were getting jobs. He ran out. And then he ended up having to have Matt Patricia, who ironically is on the same team right now. He had to pivot to him to call offensive plays. He ran out of coordinators. They kept getting jobs. They was winning, with Tom Brady. And I think last year, when you look at Nick Sirianni's group, and we talk about Nick Sirianni and why he was ranked in my top 10, as far as coaches in the league coming into the year, was because of the fact that he got both of his coordinators jobs. Jonathan Gannon being one of those guys, and Stane Steichen being another. Now, Stane Steichen is a known guy in his own right. We saw what he did with Justin Herbert before Philly. We saw what he's doing with Gardner Minshew after Philly. But he got those guys jobs, and he ran out. He won a Super Bowl. It never happened where 2 coordinators got jobs in the same offseason. So when you talk about the Eagles' issues, it reminds me of the Patriots because they ran out of coordinators. They hired the quarterback coach who was the closest to the quarterback in Brian Johnson. So it's like, what did we really want them to do? Like, I think when you almost win the Super Bowl, it's like you trust in your offense to still figure it out, where you don't have to make a splash move because you lost your guy. So I think last year was a product of them losing great coordinators because they had that special season, and it's affecting their offense right now. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel like they have an identity, and it feels like they're trying to do some of the things they did last year, but it's like it's not happening. It's like they lip singing their own song, if that makes any sense, So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think it keeps going back to, like, it's just so hard to figure out, especially before you start the season, like, how big of an impact is losing this coordinator going to make. And it's hard because, like, you just don't know. You don't have any evidence. But with Philadelphia and the team we're going to talk about next that also lost on Christmas Day, like, the impacts are pretty big, no doubt.
Yeah, the Chiefs. Yeah. Let's get right into the Chiefs right now, man. The Chiefs have a lot of issues right now. They lost to the Raiders, and I am not a hater. And let's bring it up right now. Can the Chiefs fix their offensive issues before the playoffs? And I guess I would love to start this one off, man, because I said it last year. No, excuse me. I said it in the offseason that Patrick Mahomes was going to have to go on the road to win a playoff game. And I really felt confident about that take this year. Not only because of the Captain Obvious, the window is never as open as you think it is, but it's mainly because of the turnover, with receivers and Eric Bieniemy and all that. And we have to acknowledge that one thing before I proceed. We have to acknowledge that Patrick Mahomes is not playing good ball right now. And I hope we know that because all I hear was receiver, drop, drop, drop. Yeah, and those things are happening. But my God, that interception that he threw was a pick six. That was on him. There was another interception that he threw that was dropped, and it wasn't an interception because of the replay. That was on him. So I think we need to come around. I understand this guy's talented. We call him the best quarterback in the NFL. But hold up. You're blaming all these other guys and exterior factors. Blame interior. Blame Patrick Mahomes. It starts with him. He's the quarterback. He's the baby goat. That's what y'all call him. Y'all disrespected my guy Tom Brady by even mentioning him as the baby goat. The disrespect. He didn't win as much rings as this guy right here on my wall, and y'all call him the baby goat. We'll give him the baby smoke. He ain't playing great right now. Okay, so let's start off there. Now, obviously, I'm not a fool. Obviously, I know he's a good quarterback. Obviously, I know other stuff is happening around him, and they have no identity on offense, and the receivers are young. They're making boneheaded plays. Travis Kelce, there's no excuse. He's in la-la land. He reminds me of how Lamar Odom was playing when he got with the Kardashians. It don't end well, bro. Leave Taylor Swift alone. Tell her to sit her behind at home, bro, because it's a distraction out here. These young kids out here, it's like a day in the headlights. Okay, right now because of all the publicity that's going on. Bad enough they playing for an organization who expects to win a championship, but you got this queen in here in the daggone booth, and these cats is out here. Oh my God, no. Okay, but look, in all seriousness, jokes aside, a lot of people thought when they traded Tyreek Hill that they were gonna flop. Me, yeah, I did. I gotta be honest. I'm not a hater. I take ownership. I was wrong. But what they were wrong at is thinking that Eric Bieniemy was replaceable because he wasn't. The same team last year, just a couple, different subtractions and additions, nothing major. The same team last year won a Super Bowl. Okay, what happened this year? Patrick Mahomes wasn't coordinator proof. Okay, he wasn't coordinator proof, and Eric Bieniemy is a guy that they should try their best to bring back if they can. I think he's gonna get a job, but that's the problem last year. They allowed him to walk. They didn't give him a raise. They didn't allow him to get another bucket of chicken. You know what I'm saying? Can I get a raise? Can I get a bucket of chicken, bro? You paying me the same rate every single year. Nah, I gotta go and I gotta try to get a job because now the narrative is, oh, Patrick Mahomes is carrying me. So now I got to change the narrative on my own right. And I'm glad that this narrative is being presented because look at Patrick Mahomes. So that's why Eric Bieniemy left, to get away from that narrative. They didn't take care of him. And now look what's happening with the Chiefs right now. And the fact that they hired Matt Nagy to replace him, that was a downgrade. We should know that. The Bears fans, the Bears that had this clown for the last couple of years, okay, was just watching y'all like this. Yo, it's about to blow up, bro. The Chiefs dynasty is about to be over. And everybody on national media, Chiefs. Mahomes. He gonna win another Super Bowl. And the Bears are like, yo, watch, bro. It's about to go down. It's happening. Matt Nagy's not good. And Eric Bieniemy is a guy that potentially is gonna get another job. You better hope it's not in LA, because if he fixed the Chargers, then that's a double whammy. So when you talk about this offensive issues, I don't believe in magic. I don't. I believe in, I don't even know what I believe in these days, bro. The world about to end. But I don't believe in magic. So things are not just going, voila, offensive identity, Patrick Mahomes back to MVP. They're going to the Super Bowl. It's not happening, bro. And I don't even care if they get a home game, bro. Bro, if they find a way to get the 2 seed, which is not mathematically impossible, they one and done, bro. They got one and done written all over them. How do I know that? Because I don't even got to look at the matchup. Well, technically I do. Because if the Steelers get in there, then they're going to blow out the Steelers with all due respect. But teams like the Browns could go in there and win. Don't get it twisted. The Browns could go into Arrowhead and win. Right? You know how I know that? Because, look, I've been a Patriot fan for a decade and change. And I know when a dynasty is closing. I know when you fool around in certain areas of the season where your offense is iffy, how you get blown out of the daggone game. Like when we got blown out 33-14 against the Ravens, like how we got blown out, against the Titans. Well, it wasn't blown out, but the Titans came to our building. We wasn't playing good. Tom Brady had his worst year. N'Keal Harry was a bust. The offense was iffy. And what happened to the Titans? They came to our building and sent us home. So I know all about that. So don't think for 1 second that voila, magic. It's magic, No, it's not so. It's not happening. So no, to answer the question.
So I wanted to go back to the point you brought up about Tyreek Hill to start. And it's funny because I think that the Chiefs trading him was the best thing and the worst thing to happen to them all at the same time. And I think last year, what this team did, winning a Super Bowl and just having that offense rolling without him, it kind of gave a lot of people, including myself, including their management and front office, that it's like that arrogance is like, oh, as long as we have Patrick Mahomes, as long as we have Andy Reid, as long as we have Travis Kelce, everything's going to be okay. And I think with the Hill trade, it's tough to say because like if they keep him, like they probably don't have Chris Jones right now. And that's the thing that was so crazy about the Raider game is like the Chiefs offense just gave them 2 touchdowns. Aiden O'Connell didn't even complete a pass in the final 3 quarters of the game. And the Raiders still found a way to win pretty comfortably. And I just never thought the Chiefs offense would look this bad, but it clearly has. And I think Mahomes obviously deserves a lot of blame. Andy Reid deserves a lot of blame. Their front office deserves a lot of blame for letting Bieniemy go, replacing him with Matt Nagy. And one thing that's like extremely noticeable for me is like they just don't seem crisp. Like they're breaking plays out of the huddle with like 10, 11 seconds left on the play clock. They don't really seem organized. And I did think, throughout the season that at some point it would be okay. Kelce figures things out and he's the go-to guy. Valdez Scantling, Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, like one of these guys eventually would just take the bull by the horn and rise up and be a guy that they could trust. But it's clear, like Mahomes just has no trust with these receivers. Their drops are killing them. Kelce, maybe it has something to do with Taylor Swift, but he's also 34. Like he's getting old, He was a guy that it seemed like his prime was just going to last forever. And that is clearly not the case. And they're just this offseason, I feel like they just need a complete revamp at the skill position players of those guys. And this offense, it looks broken. Now, in terms of can they fix their offensive issues in time for the playoffs, like it's safe to say that with only 2 games left, it's not really looking that great for them. The thing is, though, their defense is really good. Like, if this offense could just be average, they're going to have a chance to win playoff games. But it's gotten to a point where it's so bad that you just don't have any confidence that they will. Like, think about it. Aiden O'Connell, like, he didn't complete a pass in the final 3 quarters of the game, and they still lost by a pretty significant margin. I know they got a touchdown late to make it a little interesting, but the Raiders really dominated that game from start to finish, and their quarterback wasn't even completing passes. So the Chiefs offense, there's clearly a lot wrong with it right now. I did think that as long as you had Mahomes, Reid, and Kelce, like you're just going to find a way, especially with a defense this good. But it's not looking good because they're about to waste a year of having one of the best defenses in the league. They're going to waste a year of Mahomes' prime with nothing. And, like, it's hard for me to deny anything you said, man. Like, they could be very well one and done in the playoffs, especially if they get a team like Cleveland, if they get a team like Buffalo, who just went into Arrowhead and won a couple weeks ago. Like, this team isn't playing good football right now, which is not something you want, especially as you get closer to January, as you get to the time when you get into the playoffs. And it's not great right now. They're going to end the season with a home game against the Bengals and Jake Browning, and then a road game in LA against the Chargers. They should win both those games pretty convincingly, but do we have evidence based on how they've played recently that they are? Not really. So it's not looking good for Kansas City right now. It's funny, the Raiders still somehow, some way have an outside shot of winning the AFC West. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to, go full free-fall mode. But, man, I feel pretty comfortable saying, Will, that was the worst loss of the Mahomes era on Sunday. They lost the Super Bowl to the Bucks. They lost an AFC championship game to the Bengals. But those are playoff games. When you're playing the best teams, you're playing the Raiders and Aiden O'Connell, who didn't complete a pass in the last 3 quarters of the game, and you lost at home. Not a great look at all. I think there are a lot of things to be concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much said all these things, from a long time ago. I try to tell a lot of people.
You never thought their offense would be this bad, though, right? Like, hasn't it gotten to a point where, like,
It's gotten worse.
They're the worst fourth scoring offense in the league. Like, what?
Yeah.
How did the Jets score more in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, it's gotten worse, and I already peeped that. I kind of saw that they wasn't, something wasn't right here, and now it went from okay, they still find a way to win games to like free fall. And that basically goes to, a lot of blame has to go to, the guys that we held, like Travis Kelce, who's out here dropping balls. It's one thing for, Rashid Rice or one of these other cats. I don't even know these cats' names, to be honest with you. I mean, you got Rashid Rice, you got the Sky Moore, you got MVS and all these guys over here. It's one thing for them to drop balls, but why are you dropping balls, bro? I understand he's old, but the last thing that should go is your hands, bro. The first thing that should go with old age is your legs. At least with Rob Gronkowski, when he came back from New England, you remember when he was on the couch, he retired that one year, came back and played with Tom Brady. His legs was gone in the beginning. He didn't have his legs. His legs got under him a little bit. He was making plays off of championship DNA, bro. He was washed. He was kind of like washed. He wasn't the same Gronk creating that separation. But guess what? He had the championship DNA. He was making plays in the Super Bowl, bro. So Travis Kelce should be doing that right now. It has nothing to do with age. His mind ain't here. Okay, his mind is not, bro. I could tell when a guy's mind is not here. He's not here. Okay, and that's number one. So he has no excuses, right? Patrick Mahomes, once again, he threw some bad interceptions this year. There's no excuses for that either. Andy Reid, he's the king off a bye. Did he lose off a bye? Things are not happening the same. But like I said before, me watching a dynasty, how it came about and how it ended, I kind of have an idea about how this ends, and it's not going to end well. It's going to end with them being one and done, bro. I'm telling you right now. I'm letting you know right now. I really got to see the opponent, unless it's not Pittsburgh. If it's Pittsburgh, then yeah, they're going to run all over Pittsburgh, right? But if it's not Pittsburgh and it's the Browns or whoever, they're going home, bro. They are. And they're going to have to look in the mirror, and they're going to have to stop being cocky. Maybe this could propel them going forward for them to have a lesson that's learned that, we don't have to deal with this arrogance. Oh, we don't need a coordinator. We don't need to pay Eric Bieniemy. We don't need to draft for wide receiver. We don't need to add a wide receiver in free agency. They draft wide receiver, but I don't have to add a big name in free agency. So yeah, I think they'll learn their lesson, and hopefully they'll be able to maneuver around that, because this year, bro, it's not happening this year. And if this happens this year, then Zach, dinner on me. With all due respect.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.